We have minutes from September 10th, the approval of the exemption of the public drinking bylaw at Larder Memorial Field for the Oktoberfest event that they're looking to have. Approval of a one-day liquor license for the Beer Guy LLC for said event. And Small Towns Collaborative presentation, the Spectrum Charter franchise agreement. So we can have a discussion on that and review it, but we apparently cannot approve an agreement tonight because we need to have a public meeting on that, public hearing on that prior to. And the approval of the early voting hours for the state presidential election, and the professional services agreement for the Collins Center of Public Management, UMass Boston Compensation and Classification Review, review of the existing shared treasure collector agreement with Pepperell. That is related to the compact community grant that we received. Okay, so we'll begin with the municipal electricity aggregation draft plan. So you have the presentation on that?
I remember this gentleman from before, yeah.
He's got the
Is
thing.
that visible on?
I'm about to share it,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, great.
I might say, sir, if you just spin a little bit so the folks that are here could hear you, just so it kind of align with Jason, just if you're comfortable with that. This might be more easy to hear.
All right, so we've been working with Paul and an associate on pulling together a draft plan. We've submitted it to EOEA and had a consult meeting with them. And kind of the next step of this process is for us to open up a 30-day public comment period. So we thought to kick that public comment period off. We have Paul here. I will say they are doing a terrific job with keeping us on schedule, advising us well, and keeping me accountable, which is usually the reverse. I'm usually Jason and consultant, so it's good to have a consultant on my tail. So he's here to provide a brief presentation, and after that we will open up. Actually, we've already received one email with some comments, but once I guess it opened up today, so the public comment starts today, and people are welcome and free to review the plan, which is posted on our website, and offer any comments or ask any questions they have. So with that, Paul, I'll hand it over to you.
Terrific, thank you very much. So let's see if I can manage the slides. Fantastic. So as Jason said, the town has developed, we're here to talk about Dunstable Community Power, the electricity program from the town. The town, as Jason said, the town has developed something called an aggregation plan, which is a document that needs to be submitted to the state for their approval. And is now taking public comments from the residents for the next month about the plan. The reason I'm here is that the plan itself is a regulatory document. It's not all that comprehensible for normal people. So what I'm going to do is just explain it in a more simple way, just so folks understand the program. I can answer any questions and help folks who want to comment on it understand the program better. Jason said the comments are accepted until the end of the month. So what is Dunstable Community Power? It's something called a municipal electricity aggregation program. That's kind of a mouthful, and if it leaves you as confused as the dog in the photo there, you can say it as another way, it's a form of group electricity buying, sort of like Costco for electricity. And it's a municipal alternative, a program offered by the town. It's an alternative to the electricity offers you get often in the mail or over the phone. This is something very popular in Massachusetts. Over 200 cities and towns have programs like this, and this would be Dunstable having its own program. Why participate in this? What's in it for you? So a few things. One is new electricity choices that are not available today. The next is stable electricity prices. This would be in comparison to the National Grid's electricity supply price, which changes every 6 months. The town will likely enter into a longer-term contract and offer a stable price. A goal of the program will also be to provide savings compared to the national grid price. The great majority of programs like this do provide savings, but it's important that the town can guarantee savings, and that's because while the town will lock in a price and know its price, National Grid's price changes every 6 months. No one knows what it will be in the future, so we can't promise the future, but definitely the experience with these programs have been that they do provide savings. And then the third benefit is consumer protections as compared to those private electricity offers. Those, the offers designed by private companies to benefit those private companies. This is a municipal program designed to benefit the residents. One important thing to say at the beginning is that this program does not replace National Grid as your utility. National Grid is the electric utility for Dunstable. That there's no choice about that. It's set by state law, and they're your utility no matter what. But in Massachusetts, you can choose your electricity supplier, and this program would be your electricity supplier should you choose to participate. So the key conceptual point here is that electricity has two components to it. Electric service has two components. There's delivery, which National Grid does no matter what, and that's about controlling, owning the poles and the wires and reading the meters and sending the bills. National Grid does that no matter what. And there's supply, which is a separate thing that you have some choices about. There are actually 3 ways to buy electricity in Massachusetts. You can have National Grid do it for you. In that case, they're providing 2 services, delivery and supply. And that's what's happening for most people in town now. And they're getting, and the supply part is what's called basic service. So you can do that. You can sign a private contract with an electricity supplier, which I mentioned earlier. Or the third option is the town can sign a contract with a supplier and create a municipal program. And that's what Dunstable Community Power would be about. So here is a picture that just sort of it shows in a picture what I've been trying to describe. So here we have what it looks like today for most folks on basic service, where National Grid is providing 2 services: supply, so that's the windmills there and the power plant; delivery, that's that big transmission tower, so they're doing those 2 things for you, and then you're the customer ingredient. So that's how it looks today. Now with the program, it's almost the same picture, but the far left part, the National Grid there, has been replaced by an electricity supplier that the town would choose. The National Grid still stays in the middle there doing the delivery part, and importantly, there's no interruption in the connection between National Grid and the customer. So that the right 2/3 of the drawing there stay the same, but there's a new supplier over there on the left replacing National Grid for this component of the service. So what will the program offer? The program will offer 2 new choices for you. There'll be something called Dunstable Standard, which people will become enrolled in unless they choose the other one. And that will be the lowest price that the town can offer. There will also be an option for people who want to choose it that will cost more, that will have 100% green electricity. So that will be an option for you, but you won't, if you want to choose it, but if you don't choose it, you won't get it. As I said before, prices will be guaranteed for a period of time that the town will decide on later, but certainly longer than the National Grid 6-month price guarantee. Everyone always has the option to do what's called opt out of the program, not participate, and then you stay with National Grid basic service, where most people are today. So 2 choices in the program, or the choice to leave the program altogether and be on National Grid basic service. So this is how it will affect the bill. So this is important. National Grid will still send you your bill. You'll only get 1 bill just like today. If you're in the program, just 2 things on the bill will change. And those are the things in yellow there. One is the name of the supplier chosen by the town will be listed. And your supply charge will be determined by the price, the town's price for the program, rather than the National Grid price for supply. Otherwise, it's the exact same bill, comes the same way as now, and you pay it the same way as now. There's a very little change there. So just to emphasize, and this is really a recap, the primary relationship remains with National Grid. They still deliver the electricity. You call them if the power goes out. They still send your bill. You only get one bill. And if you get a low income discount or budget billing or fuel assistance, anything like that, you still get those discounts, whether you're in the program or not. Now, participating in the program, that's easy. The program has what's called an automatic enrollment model, which is the way all these programs, all 200 of them, work under state law. And that means that if you're eligible to be in the program, you get enrolled automatically unless you say you don't want to be in it. You'll get a formal notification in advance, 30 days in advance, telling you about the program, telling you about the prices. And at that point, you can say, decide I want to be in it, in which case you don't have to do anything. Or you can say, I don't want to be in it, and then you will be removed from the program. And there are lots of ways to say you don't want to be in it. And importantly, you can try the program for a while if you want. You can always leave. There's never a charge for leaving. You can always go back to National Grid Basic Service. If you have a question, have you taken
I have
it?
a question. So I actually already have a different supplier, so I would be not eligible until that contract is actually running.
So you would be not eligible in the sense that you wouldn't get automatically enrolled in the program. So if you have a private contract, you don't get automatically enrolled. As far as the program is concerned, you're free to join at any time, and the program will charge you any fee to join. But if you have a private contract, that contract might have a penalty if you leave early, so you might want to let that contract come to an end or talk to that supplier and see if there's a penalty or not. So the town program would always welcome you in, but the other contract might prevent you from doing that, or do not want to do that.
So only those that have the basic service would be automatically enrolled.
Yes, exactly correct. I should have been clear about that. So the automatic enrollment group is the people on basic service.
Thank you.
And then, let's see, so we just have a few questions. So this is exactly the question that just came up, so you're a step ahead of the presentation. So if you have a contract with an electricity supplier, you won't be automatically enrolled, but you can join if you want to. What happens if you have solar panels? People ask about that a lot. Then nothing changes. You still get your solar net metering credits or your any kind of community solar credits, everything you get now, and they're still calculated the same way as now. So whether you're in the program or not, those credits are calculated the same way. And then, as I said before, if you have a low-income discount, fuel assistance, National Grid budget billing, all that stays the same. None of it changes if you join.
Paul, on the budget billing, like that's a pretty common practice for, like $50 a month of balance bill. If the rate's lower, does it go down?
It would whenever National Grid resets, right? So
Okay,
the way budget billing works is they make an estimate of what your use is going to be for the next period and what your bill would be, and then they collect the regular amount when they true it up at the end. So they would factor that in determining the budget amount.
okay. Yeah, just because it may shift a bit. You never know.
That's right. And then just to give a sense of the timeline, so this whole process takes about a year. We're sort of over on the left there in that first green bar, which is developing the aggregation plan, having the public review. Then it gets submitted to the state for their approval. That's supposed to take 4 months. And then from there, the town is ready to go. So the town will conduct a procurement, choose a supplier, and then there'll be before the program launches, a public outreach and community education period where there'll be a mailing to everybody, there'll be public information sessions in town, helping just to make sure people understand the program and can decide whether to be in it or not, and then the program will launch. How we will get this information through just like I said, there'll be a notice in the mail, the announcement, and importantly, there's a website, and I think this is my last slide here. If you want to get more information, you can go to the website now, Dunstable Community Power, or you can call that 800 number there, and there are folks there who are familiar with the program who can answer any of your questions. And just the public comments on the plan accepted through October 25th, and you can get a copy of the plan on the website or on the town website, or I think there are hard copies available here in Town Hall. And that's the end. I asked this question once before, I don't know what we do or do it. I have a farm. Yes. Energy discount, comes to $1,000. Just consider third party, non-qualified provider, like third party energy suppliers. Yes, so that's correct. So if you obviously the last time you asked that question, I didn't know the answer. Actually, I've been asking National Grid for the last month to answer that question for me, but I'm pretty sure the way it would work is today you're getting that discount on 100% of your bill. If you join the program, you would only apply to the delivery part of the bill. So you'd probably be better off not being in the program, so you can hold on to the full discount. There's, it's only. It's only on part of the bill. Oh, and that's it? So you're better than National Grid. I must have asked them this question 10 times. I mean, that particular bill there is a little over $30. Yeah. You multiply that times 12 months, and it's a considerable amount of money.
We had actually talked about it, Paul and I had talked about including that in our education materials too. I think that's why we're trying to get a better handle on how it works, because if there are more people like you in the
Now, I don't know if
town,
the other farm in town are involved in this.
well, still though, we want to make sure, if they are,
And
we want to make sure.
if you have a third-party supplier now? No, National Grid. Oh, so then it's only on the delivery part. But I'm now really gonna push National Grid, because maybe it's better than I thought, that it wouldn't change. But we'll get this answered for sure, and we'll make it part of the educational materials. It'll be in the letter, we'll discuss it in the letter that goes to everybody, and we'll be sure to highlight it on the website, so we have this information. And I'd be happy to follow up with you directly once I learn more, even though we're going to give you away and contact you.
Anybody else have any questions on Erica?
So, right now, I want to pay until January. It sounds like this is gonna be a little bit before this gets up and running. But I'm guessing that the rates will be stated before, so once my contract is up and renewal, I can even their rate, they're gonna offer me. And I'll have a rate flexible that I can choose between the two.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I did not hear about the time, so your contract runs until when?
Right now, it just runs until January, but at any point in time, if I want to compare, there'll be a rate that I can look at.
Yes, exactly.
Check the provider. I know I have one of those as well, and I think it had like an 18-month timeline, and there was like a $50 cancellation fee. So if yours is up in January, mine didn't state whether it would roll automatically back. I think it just said it's almost like a tenant at will. Like you're still on it and the rate may vary. So you could either shop it around or just auto join the Dunstable Community Power at that point. It's pretty common. I think there was a big Facebook emphasis on this a while back, and this is sort of why we, decided to work with Paul to try to get a better rate for the town. And a lot of towns do this now. So.
All right, anybody else? Questions on the, yeah.
Is there any sort of buy-in price into this for the town or for individuals? Like to switch over, is there a cost? I'm just wondering if there are any sort of hidden fees.
Oh, yes, great question. None in the town program. So there's no fee for joining the program, no fee for leaving the program, and no fee for rejoining National Grid Basic Service if you want to do that.
Is the cost or the savings dependent on how many people join it? I know it's an opt-out program, but say 30% of the town opts out of it. Is it a lower savings? I'm just trying to guess.
Yes, great question, and no, there will be no difference. So the town will sign a contract with an electricity supplier. They are committed to whatever price they offer to the town, and they're committed to that price whether everybody in the town is in it or only one person in the town is in it. They're committed to that price.
And last question on the supplier, I'm just not familiar with the whole process. So I'm familiar with if something happens with the supplier right now, I'm assuming National Grid just switches over, but if something happens with this fire that the town fix, what happens at that point? Do we just revert to National Grid, like?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what, question is what happens if something happens to the supplier that?
They gotta choose this.
Yeah, so, as far as the physical electricity goes, that would not be interrupted because, it's actually a regional entity that runs the power grid and they make sure everybody gets their electricity no matter what. If the supplier of the town chose ran into trouble and didn't supply the electricity they were supposed to, there would be financial penalties for them, but no loss of electricity for you. In the worst possible case, say the supplier were to go out of business, what usually would happen is another supplier would just purchase the contracts and everything would stay as it is. Worst possible case, you just go back to basic service with today. That's never happened, but if the worst case happened, that's what would result.
Right, thank you.
So, sorry, I have one more question. So what company do you work for?
I work for a firm called Mass Power Choice. We're a consulting firm hired by the town to help with the program, but we're not the electricity supplier. We're just consultants.
Okay, and so is it like a one-time fee?
The way we get paid is we get it's like a broker fee. So we get a small bit of every kilowatt hour, based on every kilowatt hour that's sold through the program, which is folded into the prices.
Okay, so it'll be an ongoing fee, but through that charge.
Through that charge, it's pretty part of the price, yeah.
Anybody else? No, so as I said, we've got 30 days of public comment to come in. These subscribes will be on our website where you can go to submit your comments. If you have questions, you can always call Jason, follow up with Paul.
Yeah, we have a full portion of our website now built out with all the information about the program and how you can offer your comments. The draft plan is posted, so everything is right on the website, right on the home. There's a button right on the homepage to go visit it. And as Paul said, there's also a separate website that you can go look at and call the 1-800 number, or send me an email, and we'll respond to all the questions and comments we receive.
I mean, over 200 communities in Massachusetts have joined similar types of programs. So again, this is, I think, Pepperell has, I think Groton's discussing it, if I remember correctly. Groton has their own, that's right. Yeah. Like Westford has their, other program. So this is something that, I hope there's a benefit. And, I think it goes back to us listening to what people were saying a couple of years ago when rates were out of this world. And on Facebook, it was just it was nuts. And I think, that opened the door for what Erica has done, of just sort of shop around, and I did the same thing. So, it's, I hope it's a benefit to folks and hope some people enroll. So thank you, Paul.
Is that number, how many communities have participated? Is it, there's 351 cities and towns, 200 of them are under some sort of aggregation agreement?
Yes, so 200 communities have programs now. In almost every case of their town-specific programs, and there are many more in development. So, maybe by the early next year, we might have like 250 towns.
No, I take into consideration how many towns have municipalities.
Right, good point.
Right. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them. They don't participate in it.
Correct.
Yeah, so your saturation at 200 communities is pretty intense. I can think of probably 60 or 70 towns that have municipal utilities.
But that's a very good point.
I mean, it sort of validates our suspicion in following through on this program and trying to give residents an opportunity to reduce their bills. It's a great way to look at it.
Questions? Sorry, may I ask one more question?
Sure.
So I did learn, what was that?
Is that changing?
Yeah.
I did learn the absolute hard way with this third-party supplier, that, even though it's auto renewing, they changed the rate. So I learned that the hard way. Is there any sort of something like that involved, where once we're, if we are in it, it's ongoing, so can that rate change at any point in time?
Yes, although in a very different way from the way third-party supply works. So the way third-party supply works, just as you said, they'll offer you a rate for a period of time. When you come to the end, what most of them do is they keep you on month to month, like a month to month tenant, but they can charge whatever they want. So very often the price will double or triple when you get to the end, and many people don't find out about it until they happen to notice like a year later. What happens with the town program is the town conducts a competitive procurement, takes bids, chooses a price for the program, and that goes for, say, 2 years. When we come towards the end of the 2 years, the plan would be the town would go out to bid again, and if it gets a price, a good bid price that the town decides would be beneficial for the residents, the program will continue. The town will inform customers in advance, this is your price now, you're coming to the end of the contract, the new price is going to be X, you can stay in the program at that time or leave if you want. So it continues on, but the critical thing is the supplier doesn't get to just charge what they want. Instead, the town takes bids and decides, are any of these bids beneficial for the town? If yes, we continue, if not, they can just end the program.
All right. You good? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Have a great night.
Presentation. Okay, public forums. Anybody here have any questions, comments, not related to anything on our agenda? None. We will move on to the Board of Health. Do you two need to call a meeting? Do the quorum?
Oh, probably, because we are a forum.
You are a quorum.
I usually have a posted meeting.
How many
We
members?
did post it.
Yeah, Joan posted
Yeah.
it, yes.
Yeah.
So you should call yourselves to order. Yeah.
Calling our board of health scores.
All right.
Right on time.
Yeah.
9 minutes early. So, discussing the fabric,
The bins, the
the
textile.
bins,
Yes.
the fabric recycling bins. And, I'm assuming they're still been on the highway, I haven't heard they moved this. And first of all, we were a little concerned that we were unaware that the select board had voted on moving them. And we weren't notified, so we were presented with sort of an emergency. They had to be moved within, I don't know, it was 24, 48 hours. They had to go now.
I don't know
When
if
did
we
you guys vote on
officially
that?
had a, I don't think we ever did have an official vote.
So there wasn't, I was looking back at the history,
We
I'm
talked about it.
not a
We didn't-
perfect historian, but
Yeah.
there wasn't a vote to put them at the, like, post office, that space to the left, if you're looking at the post office there. And there wasn't a vote to necessarily move them down. There was a discussion, and that's sort of the
Well,
evolution of
early
it.
on, there was a discussion. We checked it out with everybody and we set it all up and it was all sort of fine. And then suddenly there was this from Ron that these need to move, it needs to go to highway doesn't want it, it has to go now. Nothing was really checked out, there were problems with the neighbor. And it was sort of dropped on the Board of Health. I mean, if there'd been we've discussed this, we need to move it, whatever. I mean, we had a vague discussion on it, 6 months ago? And then suddenly it was dropped on us, on communication from representing the select board, that they need to be moved immediately.
I have to say that this was not a formal discussion. It was not a specific agenda item that the board took a vote on. We did discuss it because we knew that once we got the Mud District project going, that the property was going to be, while still retained as ownership by the town, it's being leased by somebody else.
Right, and
So
that was
that
part of the
eventually that
discussion.
they would want those moved.
Right, that was part of the discussion way back.
Right.
We knew they were gonna have to move eventually, but.
Yeah.
And this is something we talked about, in our meetings, like, where are we gonna put it next?
We
Because,
considered the library, we considered a bunch of.
yeah, the library isn't
places.
gonna work, so. And then suddenly it was urgent, and I can't say that was appreciated,
I
and
don't
it
know
did
where
not
that
work out.
actually came from.
Unfortunately, Joan was subject,
It was not a board decision.
and Joan was subject to some pretty awful.
Oh, no, I heard about that.
Yes, that
Yes.
was not fair to Joan, for her to take the brunt of, the thing.
All right, well, Ron, I'm gonna pass it to you.
So I'm gonna take issue with you, Maria. you know, yeah, I spearheaded this, but quite honestly, to my own self-defense here, all right? I started this thing last January, and there are emails that went out to everybody, including yourself, okay? With pictures of where those bins were gonna go, why we needed to move them. We have the library board here, you folks have been here, we have the highway guys here. Maria, we went the route with this thing. Now, whether.
And it's been quiet ever since then. What
But
happened?
But it does come to a point, well, I think both Karen and myself, and maybe Leah to some extent too, have had residents of the town complain to us about where those bins were. And that they
On the
didn't,
snow.
yeah, they didn't look appropriate.
That's a snow parking.
We don't own that property anymore.
We do own
Well, it's leased on a 99-year lease to a developer. You know, none of us are gonna be here in 99 years, so we own it, but we don't, right? And the bins needed to move because he was going down there with test boring equipment. Now, some of that is delayed at this point because of a turtle issue. But there was a point in time back in March or April, I don't know when the developer who I spoke with was going in there with equipment to do test borings, and then they didn't do that work. Neither here nor there at this point. The bins couldn't stay where they are. I think we've had everybody in on this thing from the get-go.
We did, we had discussions months ago.
Right.
And we knew this was an older issue. And then there was silence, and there was discussion, but if the select board was gonna hit this point, is they gotta move now, you've got 48 hours to go on a highway, and you better tell highway. Warning would have been nice on that, like.
I honestly
This
don't-
suddenly came to a head, yes, it's been going on for a while, there's a lot of things in town that have been going on for a while, suddenly it came to a head, suddenly a decision had to be made.
Well, I
There
think a
was not
little,
a decision, that 30-day was not a decision that was voted on by the board. The only thing I know is that there was consideration at one point that our highway guys were gonna try to move them, but the owner of those bins said he wanted to do it himself.
Which was fine, they're
That was the last
responsive, and
step.
I'd rather
I
have them
heard,
move,
it
they're set
doesn't
up for it.
mean other members of this board didn't have other communications, but it was not done at a meeting. So what the 30-day, I was not privy to that bit of information. Whether the owner of the bins called up someone else and said, hey, I'll be here if this got happened.
No, that wasn't what happened. What happened was we were told they had to move. They're very willing to move when we went to move. And I don't blame them. And it's better for us, if they move, right? Like they were just like, where do you need them put? But we had a sudden situation. Highway was not informed and not happy.
I'm gonna
We can
take
go back and
issue with
forth
that
with
too. You know what? I'm sorry. I am dead sorry. I was extremely meticulous with all the emails that went out to everybody. Maria, I'll print them all out to you. They go all the way back to last January. They really
There was
do.
a lot of history right back, what there was not was, this is coming up and we have a deadline coming.
It was
The
coming up
deadline was-
and they've gotta get moved. And you know,
They gotta get moved, means we've gotta get a trash program, we've gotta do whatever.
yeah,
Just they,
but
you
they had.
knew what the deadline was apparently.
Yeah,
Why
no,
didn't
there
you
was
tell
no
us?
deadline. The deadline, the issue with it, from my own perspective, is from January, months and months go by and the bins sat there. And we had the same, these did too. We had people call us up and see us at the gas station, at donut shop, saying, why are those bins still there? They went back and forth, and finally, Karen brought this up several times. He's had several issues with them too. Here's the point with it.
So the
Maria-
urgency was because people were complaining, not.
No, the urgency
no,
was
like
that.
that's a little unfair because the urgency was we had come to an agreement with the town-owned land and the lease to begin a project for the town for affordable housing. And the timeline there was this early spring, the goal was to have machines go down through the Snell property and begin exploratory borings and such. To Ron's point, that was delayed, but we knew the imminence of moving the bins needed to happen because if they showed up with an excavator and they're like, what do we do? Either they may damage the bins, which would be unfortunate, or it would slow down that project, which with turtle and habitat type of stuff, there's a certain time frame for those types of things.
I
So-
think that's not really valid, I don't,
So there was-
I certainly was not in receipt of your email, so the town board of health email tends to fail to a lot of us, but, my direct email always gets to me. We were not, so while this is building up, so we have a conversation back last winter, things need to move, we're not sure the exact time frame, whatever, and then all of this is building up, and pressure cooking, the board of health is not aware, and then suddenly, they gotta move now. Got 24, get them in, get the people in, the next couple of days it has to happen. So there was a big, quiet gap. This may have been going on in your head and what was happening here. As far as communication with the board of health, there's a big, quiet gap. I don't know, are they still in the wrapped around with caution tape with the guy threatening people that come near to it? So we still have a problem in the decision. I don't know what they're taking in at this point, or do we even want to keep the bins? I was taking my stuff to Lowell before the bins arrived.
So the bins where they were on Snell really worked well. The guy that was picking the stuff up, who I talked to several times, right? He was meticulous with what he was doing. He was pulling cash out of the pockets of the pants and the jackets that were thrown in there. Good luck to him. And it worked really well. They were absolutely well received. And a lot of us dumped stuff in those bins. And so from the standpoint of the utilization of the bin or those bins, it was well received. Up until we moved those bins, we did not have any issues with those bins. In the occurrence of vandalism that's going on now, and even last night, more vandalism, it is outside of the culture of this town to have that go on to the extent it's going on for all this time we've put them there, right? And it appears to be pointed at a neighbor who dislikes having the bins there. Quite honestly, we may not even be here tonight had those bins not consistently become issues. And the vandalism is continuing even as of last night. And so the discussion today, at least I think anyway, is I personally dislike the fact that we have an individual that appears to be the cause of this vandalism. I want to be careful with that word appears, to the extent that that's been going on. And so the question is, do we move the bins to some other location? Do we eliminate the bins? Do we need to have the bins? I don't like the vandalism that's going on. It's threatening the functionality of the highway garage. It certainly is. And so I'm just sitting here going, all right, what do we do now? Do we need the bins? Do they go? Can we put them, where else can they go?
I don't know how many people complained. Was it 20, 30, 40, 50 people?
A number.
10, 5, or were they just really loud?
Yeah, I don't know how many. I could probably figure it all out, but how many?
You know, you have a ballpark in your head.
Yeah, there was, I got whacked at the gas station probably 8 or 10 different times by, in some cases by the same people who said, you know, why are you guys not paying attention to what we're telling them? Or when, you know, does the select board care? I mean, when those people come at us with that angle, all right, you know, this board anyway, as it sits today, we go out of our way to follow up on things and be sure that people who communicate to us through the website, the chair, whoever the chair, I mean, they're getting responses back the same day or the next day. And we take pride in that. And when I hear that those bins are still there and someone comes at me and says, well, why are they still there? Do you not care? You know what? I take that personally, because we work hard to be sure that people are sufficiently communicated with on issues in the town. So
Right.
a long story short is here we are today, all right? We've got a significant vandalism issue that is still out of control. And the question is, I don't know if anybody's even using those bins right now because of the caution tape and the cones and the quite honestly, it's a visual threat to people that are using those
I would
bins.
guess
So
not, I'm planning on going down the hall.
what do we do with it? I don't
Just
know.
revisit the purpose of the bid, how we got into this whole thing in the first place, which is that the state made it illegal to dump fabrics in the trash.
Right.
Now, not that anybody goes around checking your trash, but it's also good for the environment in terms of recycling fabric. So it's an addition to our recycling program, which the Board of Health provides the trash service and recycling service to the town. It also supports a local nonprofit and it returns funds to the town. So we brought in, my last count from Joan was about $4,000 to the town, where having been at the recent town meeting, every penny counts. Like we're keeping the lights on in town hall with recycling fabrics, fantastic. So one question would be, when you receive complaints, did you use that as an opportunity to educate people to those facts? Or is it just, it's an eyesore, get rid of it? Because that's been the biggest complaint. It doesn't look like Dunstable, it's an eyesore.
And the lot is an eyesore, with or without trees. So,
Right.
I have
think
gone
that's-
out of my way personally to those people who I have communicated with. And although, I'm an environmentalist at heart, and I appreciate the fact that those bins are being used to the extent that they are. And even my own wife throwing textiles and shoes and stuff in there. That's what we do with the stuff, but I want to know that the textiles are being handled the right way. You can talk to Shaw, Shaw's sorting facility is pulling all that stuff out, and there's no reason for it. And I think we've done as a town a really good thing by having those things. That's how I see it.
well, the other thing I'd like to think about too is certainly on the Board of Health, we get more than our fair share of unhappy people. People screaming because we made them do another test hole, and then they get got pledged or had something. Swimming pool, but we closed the transfer station. I mean, we had a hall full of people screaming at us for that. I mean, screaming at us.
I remember that one. That was a good one.
Because that's a bad plan, okay? Masking, and we got a lot of quiet people for all the people we had ripping up stuff one side and down the other, and online comments, and I was Maria Snaskowski, and duped on social media for it, and all the flack that we got. The people who complain tend to be the loud people, and they're only us. And people in favor were quiet, and we got quiet. I got a handwritten note from a citizen thanking us, and we've had people individually ask us and thank us. But the people that were screaming were the complainants. And I think we have to consider that sometimes not everybody's gonna like what's the best decision for the town that is even generally more overall populated, and consider whether those 50 people, individuals that complained, and if they're getting mileage, if you're telling them you're gonna get rid of it, they're gonna push. I mean, I think we need to consider that too. I mean, is there a better decision for the town, or are some people gonna have to just live with it? And we know we're gonna have to move it eventually, but it was fast. It is in a very difficult situation right now, and we still haven't come up with a good place to put those bins so that they're visible, they're along the main, because if you put them on the back road, people are gonna start dumping stuff there. And they're gonna have to pull them out, because they're very good about picking up. Whenever people dump, they're like, oh, people are dumping, it's horrible, just let us know. And they can hear within like 6 or 7 hours, most of the time, certainly within 24, to pick up when people dump stuff around there. But if we put it back out of the way, tucked away in a corner, then people are gonna be able to dump easily. We're not gonna be able to see it. It's just gonna be way too tempting for dumping, and it won't get the use. People won't know where it is. And like the library, I mean, I think I'm over there for seniors once a week. It's great for a library, but it doesn't take traffic in and out. People don't go by it. It's not easy in and out. They don't have a room, and it would certainly be a rough place to be unloading dumpsters and putting dumpsters in on a regular basis. I mean, we went a long ways trying to figure out the first time where to put it, and now we're like, well, the highway solution. I mean, I think I was the first one to make a little loop or something there, but if it doesn't work, or can it adapt it? I feel there was an implied criticism, like, well, we take the comments of the town. We take the comments of the town very carefully too. We really care, but we're not just looking at our decision who's yelling loudest and who's the most upset. That's often not the best decision. If we followed that, we wouldn't have had Madison, we would not have had a town trash program, which over the years, many people have adopted. So, do we want to get rid of the bins? Is it really a good idea?
Yeah,
Well-
so what is our path forward here? I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's beneficial to have the bins. I think they serve a great purpose. The money that comes in is obviously very helpful. Doesn't help to have them in a place where people are afraid to use them. Mr. Cheney, can you?
Yeah.
Where's my ruler? Anyway,
No,
I digress. So I think if keeping them, I personally think is a good idea. I think it benefits the Board of Health, benefits the town, gives people things to do. If they're in a place, obviously, that people are afraid to use them because of the situation that's going on, obviously.
We may as well not have them where they are now.
Right.
I mean, literally, I'm on the
Are they
board,
not
I'm
being used?
thinking on my next load's going to Lowell. I'm
Yeah.
gonna just gonna drive it down. And that's only open during business hours, so you can't just.
Do we think that, I mean, so to your point, and I want to make sure you feel like you're being heard, because I appreciate that. Like, I think it's important to try to hear everybody. And I appreciate the volunteers and you put into the board and such. But in the same light, like, I don't want to, I'll use the phrase, bend the knee to the upset neighbor, because that's just as if that parcel that we had the Snell, it's town-owned land, and this is for all the residents of the town. And your comment about the loudest voice, you know, this whomever it might be, allegedly, you know, they're upset. But, you know, like, I hate to, like I said, bend the knee because someone's really upset and like not feeling heard. Like, they could have come to the meeting tonight to discuss, unless they're here. I'm not sure if
Bend the
they,
knee or talk to them, I
like, that's,
I'm open to reason holding it, because the highway is on 113. It's in town. I don't want it to disrupt highway, but highway, it is town property.
Could they be moved to somewhere different on that
Maybe
property?
pull through or something
Further
and make
away.
it a little bit different. More,
Perhaps we can meet with highway and see if it's.
Meet with highway, maybe move to the other side of the entrance to the field rather than being in that location. I mean, there's gotta be a solution to this.
okay,
You know, I don't wanna see them removed altogether, but if we can, I don't really know what the main issue of the abutter is. Is it because they're ugly, they're afraid they're gonna be vandalized? I don't know. But if we can address that without it destroying something that's really good for the rest of the folks in town, I think we should try to figure that out.
well then, so probably talking with highway first is the
Yeah.
first thing, that we may need involvement of the select board and or the police to get this, see if we can't get this to a workable negotiated.
because there really are only, there's
Safe
no
place.
bins, a new location, or do nothing. Those are your three options. Okay.
Mr. Cheney?
Yeah, I use the things myself, and I think they're very good to have. Your idea of shifting over to the other side of the driveway, and the space there, and it's public property, you know, definitely look at it with the highway folks. And why not paint them green?
Yeah. And maybe he may have a trademark on that blue, but I don't
Says
know.
that to be light blue.
We can ask,
We could ask them if they can make it more.
or if they
Well,
have,
if you
yeah.
say paint them green or take them out, guess what? They'll be green.
Yeah.
And, you know, they would look better if they were green.
Erica?
Kind of go along with that, can they maybe put 3/4 fencing around so that people can still see they're there, but they're kind of hidden?
So visible from the road.
So even if they're going by, they can, you know, they can see them, but other than that, it's kind of. But
Yeah, I mean,
I
he
prefer
needs access to be able to get into those.
Spaces that open to the
Yeah.
road for
Like here,
dumping.
people will dump stuff back there.
I think also the reason they're blue is because everybody knows what that means. And I
I
paint
didn't.
takes away.
I didn't like. it.
Blue means slow down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because we, you know, you're right. Like, at some point, we knew the clock was going to beep and expire on us. So and they are used.
Now we're
So,
scrambling because it's a little abrupt, but yeah, so we'll talk to highway.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I hate to think that you're right. Like, should the loudest voice be the one that's honored here? Like,
Well, I mean, they should be, I'm curious what their concern really is about it, but at the same time, if it's simply because they're ugly, I'm not sure that's enough reason, but.
Put up a fence. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the
They want
solution.
them fenced
for-
off. I mean, they're on 113, it's not beautiful.
Yeah.
They're tidy, they're not chipped,
Yeah,
they're not
Houston-
derelict.
Is there a highway commissioner now?
Mike, Mr. Martin,
Wasn't gonna talk, you guys gonna drag me in, so.
We didn't have
Wasn't me.
Look, there's a problem going on down there. He knows it, I know it. And to move them from where they are right at the moment and put them over on the other side of the driveway is not acceptable, especially come winter time. Too much traffic in and out, we can't afford to have some pedestrians pull up and do whatever they do. And if we put them further down towards the boundary line, that means they're gonna have to drive across the yard. Now, that means whether you set the yard up and do away with the grass and whatever to put those in, because you can't put them up next to 113, that wouldn't do you any good.
Because of the plow arms, yeah.
But you can't put them on that side of the driveway or on the driveway side, either side of the driveway, going in and out of the driveway picture. Because of the traffic that, especially in the winter, and at night, and you don't know when these people drop stuff off.
I mean, the traffic going of your highway,
Yes,
folks riding
yeah.
up.
24/7.
Liability for us running somebody's car over or whatever, somebody, hit them with a plow.
in the ice.
Yeah,
It's-
fair enough.
That's ridiculous. Look, I don't know, I didn't want to get into it. I don't understand why they were moved to begin with, why they were turned 180 degrees, run with the boundary line between the post office and Lee Snell's property, running with the thing, and if you had to put a 6-foot stockade fence or something at the end so that people didn't see the end. But I like the idea of telling them, hey, agree.
It's not town, it's not town truck managed anymore.
Yeah, we do.
That cell property is not town managed anymore.
It's, I think if people would look into it, maybe it would be possible. I don't think a shovel's gonna hit that ground in there for another 2 years. In 2 years, then come back and move it. Fine, in 2 years, you've got 2 years to roughly, I don't know if that's to be exact. You've got time to be looking to find a permanent home for these if they can't stay there. How do you know that the people who lease the land won't let them stay there?
We knew it was temporary right from the get-go, but we also knew it was.
No, I'm just saying,
More than it was.
I'm only bringing this out for the simple reason that you can't go on either side of that driveway going into that yard.
You guys see the room is-
Unless you go further down, in which case you would have to probably do some groundwork in order for them to be able to drive over to it.
Right, yeah.
But they cannot go on that driveway. I'm totally against that. I think liability would be phenomenal. And it wouldn't take much to start problems. And right now, we are having trouble down there, like Ron knows, and I know. And with the gentleman behind you knows.
All right,
So,
well, we'll have to think about new spots then, or,
Well,
or not, I mean.
but, okay, I think we're in agreement that the bins are gonna stay in the town. Okay? And so I think going forward, right, you guys come back to us and say where you'd like them placed, right? But to Mike's point, putting them on the other side, when they're plowing snow or a snow removal operation, and they get contractors in here that are plowing, that are going in there to load salt and sand and coming out. I agree with Mike. I think that's a significant liability to hitting somebody or the road is icy. So right now, where they are, it used to be and I don't think he's using it anymore, was the Veterans Office. And, Peter George had all of his stuff in there. And so that parking space and that space became, the one that we selected. We're gonna put them by the police station, fire station, the library, town hall, the old, up on Hall Street there, the old salt shed up there. Those trash bins have been everywhere, so we decided that was probably the best of all the choices, and that's why they ended up there.
Well, it's a good spot for them, really.
It's a good
Where they
spot,
are is a good spot.
but we're in
Sure.
conflict here with a neighbor who has chosen to present all these different, well, and again, I want to be careful here that we understand we don't have information yet as to who's doing all this stuff, but we're highly suspicious because when those bins sat over where they were, there was never anything wrong. They were perfect. And so now we've got this issue that's cooking over there, and the vandalism as of last night intensified to something more significant. And there's a couple $1 million in trucks sitting in that yard, pardon me?
Should we have cameras on?
Well, I think that discussion happened this morning. Mike is here, and yeah, I do think that, but even going forward,
There and on your equipment?
Just the ring camera. $50. I think that's
Okay, you gotta
fine.
find another place. As soon as you can. Good.
We will
How
not-
about across the street and power lines?
This power line,
The Pleasant Street Extension, I think it's what it's called.
yeah.
Yeah, they have an easement to that, so
Who
I
owns
don't,
that land, who owns the triangle there?
I think that's town owned, but I think National Grid has a easement over that for turnaround. Right, isn't that correct?
well, Delita's own a portion of the property, and the easement is to
To
the,
make sure people need to be driving that, because that on the prior location.
But then it's winter time and they're still
was
gonna
drivable,
be,
you know, you have to
Yeah,
fly,
that's-
and
they were plowed in on the cell property in the winter time.
pretty drivable, which means first of all, you should.
oh, they do. They fence.
You guys make it,
Mm.
Respectfully.
It's a matter of just plowing in and plowing, going in, and yeah, that can be great.
Where's that? Where?
On the triangle right across from, Reedville.
But then you're only moving the bin from next to his house to in front of his house, so you do
So
this.
around
Well,
that.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
You have to meet.
That's right.
Then it's in the middle.
That's the
That's
chat.
the
They're
difference.
taking up parking spaces.
Well, I think there's room for talking to people.
Sometimes.
All right, I think we're gonna, kind of redirect this back here and not have 5 conversations going on out there. So
Well,
I
we
guess,
got your support in trying to work with this, because
yeah,
we just got dropped into it, and now it's a mess.
yeah,
Which I think was to Marie's original, but was just to improve our collaboration and communication with the board, so that we're not taken by surprise.
yeah, no,
When I got a
fair
panic
point.
message from Joan, they have to move in 2 days, like.
Okay.
And it was quite unfair to put Joan in all that, so.
Alan, and then Erica, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, that triangle piece is the Chapman piece, it's conservation land. However, it's not supporting a hell of a lot of wildlife at the moment, turtles or whatever. I don't know that it would solve your alleged problem with the alleged neighbor. But you could, at the same time that you were doing that, you could put a nice big welcome to Dunstable sign where the petrol has, because I am very jealous of that sign. And so I think you could do both. No, never mind. But I don't think the Conservation Commission would get in a tear over using that. It's just that I don't know, as Mike says, somebody said that it would solve your neighbor problem.
Can I walk, we can quick look at it for, I sort of remember this in my head,
After the meeting.
okay.
Okay, Erica?
Fine.
You mentioned that the town makes some of their own bids.
Yes.
So there is motivation for the town to have bids. What is the motivation for the Board of Health to have bids in the town?
Well, it's recycling, and we're people that manage the trash and recycling in the town, and you can no longer, you have to recycle fabrics. So the service of the town to have a place to be able to recycle, also it brings revenue into the town. It just happens to come through our board. So that, you know.
So there's no benefit to the Board of Health to have bids in the town. That's all.
Well, we can't put them in another town, we don't have that kind
Yeah, I mean, it's
let me
stimulated
help.
by the fact that you can no longer put textiles in the trash.
That's-
So they're providing the service to the
That's the
town to
driver.
be able to do that.
No textiles, no mattresses, no box springs.
No food,
Well, food's coming around pretty soon, that's
food's already not allowed in the store.
going in the trash.
It should not be going in the trash.
Everybody
It's
throws
already
it in
been
the
removed. You cannot put food or food scraps, food waste, textiles in the trash.
It's not trash anymore.
So, anyway, anything else in this? Okay,
We're gonna look at that on the space and what ability is that.
great, okay.
If you find it becomes too burdensome, just a volunteer to try and do the best they can. I'm saying if it becomes too burdensome, and it's just that, like, it's, until we have a better plan, have them removed, and then once that project's done over there, perhaps the developer there will say, I'll carve a space out for you.
He could, I mean, those bins were on a pad site, they weren't, that's a pad site, it's up there where they were, and, you know, I don't know, Karen, I'm gonna agree that I don't like this nonsense and bending the knee here, because we've got a neighbor here that has decided that he's gonna wage a war and do the kind of stuff he's been doing.
We don't want our citizens to wage any war.
Yeah, but this is vandalism, and there's no, you know, there's no place, any place for that, and I object to that, and it's poor for him to do this,
Allegedly.
It is,
allegedly.
Well, we're gonna take it to task and see what we can do. We're gonna be counting on the support of the selectmen to get this resolved.
Yeah, the only thing I would like to do is just ask that we do this in the next couple of weeks, or that there's some timeline so that we create an expectation as to what we're gonna do, because, I mean, obviously,
We're in
the,
discovery, it's hard to do a timeline. as to
Yeah,
what
yeah, 3 weeks is
places.
not enough time to sort something, because we, I mean, considering it took us 6 months to
wow,
even think of areas.
longer than 6 months, but it's neither here nor there, but
We're
at
in
some point,
priority.
the
We
only.
prioritize it, but we're in discovery. We don't know if that other site can be used or whatever. We can't commit to timelines and
Yeah,
deadlines until
so-
we can plan.
So let me say this about that, okay? I hear you. The only issue is this one, in this particular matter, has a different complexion to it because of the vandalism that's going on there. That's, and so in my opinion, in.
So we have a police issue.
Well, you know, I don't know whether it's, you know, there's an issue. And to let that sit and languish is only going to continue to allow this to go on, and
I don't see it falling on the Board of Health to resolve this issue with the vandalism right now. I think if even just having them there, I mean, we've got a police issue, we've got a town relations issue, we've got something. But, and trust me, we want them out of there as long as this is happening too. But for us to say, we're gonna find somewhere to dump them or get them pulled out of town until the mud is developed 5 years from now, is not, because we don't fit this timeline that's been chosen.
But we'll prioritize.
We'll prioritize. We're not, we don't like where they are now. Maybe it can be solved, maybe it can be fixed, but we kind of got where we got by doing it in 2 days. We'd rather not jump out of fire than into the fire. Thank you.
Joan?
How much would it cost to set up a couple cameras down there?
I don't know.
You can get a battery operated camera for $50.
Yeah, go to Best Buy, you can have one up in 10 minutes.
I spoke with David about that this morning.
That's a great start.
I think that's a very good start.
Just so you know, we're not talking Yankees.
All right, well, thanks.
Thank you.
I wanna digress while Mike is here. Mr. Mike, you know, this issue that creeped up last night, right, with what was done there last night, you know what, it causes me some concern. And, you know, you guys control that building and those grounds. and that's great. But my caution here is that, I think there's a couple $1 million in trucks sitting out in that yard. And I could almost believe that this is gonna escalate into something else, Mike. There's gonna be a hydraulic hose cut, or
I
there's
don't
gonna
know, I don't know.
bleach poured into the deck.
It's already costly,
be, it has.
it's already costly.
So my offer here, and I'm always the guy that kind of goes off the deep end, right? I would have a camera system put in, and I have the cameras report to a server, and just hit it. I hear the Ring camera. I don't know if that Ring camera is gonna get you what you need over there. As long as those trucks are housed outside like that, and knowing the potential that's there to cause damage, and in you of all people, the excavator is a year old, right? I mean, we just can't afford to have this sort of, and it just takes the equipment out of service at the same time. And my advice, and I said this to David this morning, is that we have a camera system put in.
We just got to.
Mr. Tully put in a camera system over at Lowell Road there, right? It's all around. He can go on his phone and see what's going on in the backyard over there. You need, I think, a Ring camera, although it's nice, I don't think that's the direction that we should go. And I think you need to look at putting in a camera system that can look at the yard and the trucks and everything else all around the building, because something's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen soon, and this problem is bad.
Oh, yeah, it is, it's already costly. It's gonna cost too much.
Well,
Gotta deal with it.
it's despicable that this is happening, whoever's doing it, it's very selfish. Despicable thing. But anyway, we are moving forward now, we are gonna move on to our next agenda item. We've done discussing this, I think, yes, okay. Next up, Brian Flynn wants to have a discussion on the sign policy that the board adopted.
That I'll refer to, there's nothing fancy, to just kind of support the fact that I'm bringing up the points. And I sit down, sit there, just doing that.
Where are you at?
Apologize first of all for being my first appointment. Miscommunication. I've asked to have some time because I wanted to address the format and content of the sign policy that was announced by email. That's shown in Exhibit 1, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I've been working with a couple of candidates on the election, and since they are not incumbents, they're concerned about the lack of being able to put them on town land. I'm sure you're all familiar, since you've been elected and been involved in it, that it's a time-consuming process to get private people to put the signs up. But it's not always a question of their politics. Businessmen don't want to put them up for obvious reasons. And I can think of one particular spot in town where it would be a lonely soul to put out the signs for these two people, given the signs that are all around them. And getting those signs up is, in my opinion, is a huge advantage for an incumbent. So from a personal standpoint, I think it suppresses democracy to not allow it, for the town to not allow the signs to be on their land. The other aspect of that is whether or not it's a change to zoning laws. And Jason and I have had a discussion about this. And a couple of things that he mentioned was he didn't think signs are all that contributory to a candidate's success. But a couple of articles in there, one of them by study by Columbia University would dispute that. And I'm trying to get my head around why the procedure was the way it was. I would think that any change in the zoning laws would require it go in front of the town for a town vote. Again, Jason disputed that it was a change, but a couple of points that seem to indicate otherwise. First of all, section 18 of the town zoning bylaws prescribes that, and I quote, any procedural matters arising under this bylaw, including amendments, administration, interpretation, notice, and other matters not specifically prescribed herein shall be governed by the appropriate provisions of Mass General laws, zoning rules, not a municipal law. Attorney, but reading through those, it would seem that there's a process, and I don't know what that process was going through. Were there meetings, public input into this? That would seem that the state laws would require that sort of thing. I know you can't change anything in the plumbing code, and it's the biggest reason they don't want to change stuff. It's so expensive to go through the process. Also, the wording of the policy, the use of the phrase private signs, there's no definition of private signs in our bylaws. Neither is there a definition in Kingsborough, Pepperell, or Groton zoning bylaws for the phrase private signs. As regards the meaning imputed by common uses of the phrase, there are some examples in the exhibit of what you get when you Google private signs. So into MS Edge. You get things like private driveway. None of it, says that it's a sign by an individual or whatever. In fact, Black's Law Dictionary has no definition for private signs. So I think that policy statement is relatively ambiguous for that reason. I would think that having ambiguous regulations or policies would be a good thing. I don't see that anything in the current zoning laws prohibits signs on town land. In fact, the past paragraph has rules specific to political signs, the time that they can be put up and the time at which they have to be removed. I wouldn't think that that would apply to private property. I would think that it's my right, if I want to keep a political sign up 365 days a year, that I probably have the right to do that. So I'm guessing that that was targeted for signs on town land. And I know that last year, and Sue can attest to this, we had an incident where one of the signs put up by a friend of mine at the triangle at Gondike Street and Run 13, some taxpayer thought that that was Dunstable Rural Land Trust land and took it upon himself to remove it. And Keith came down and showed that that was town land. That sign was allowed to be put back up. So I would think that if there was any prohibition against signs on town land, he wouldn't have been allowed to put the sign back up. Let's see. The search also seems to suggest that parameters of zoning regulations are pretty analogous to plans and specs of a major construction project. And they have to be very specific. Another thing that would require them to be very specific and accurate is the ACLU's funds for going after signs. Also, the Groton and Kingsborough zoning bylaws specifically prohibit political signs. They don't try to hide it within what the ACLU would do with that. I don't know. Ask the ACLU. So one thing that kind of glares out with all of this is that it looks like there's going to be a town meeting in a month or so. Am I correct in that?
For a zoning change. For a zoning change. For a bylaw change, you would need review by the town.
And the planning board.
He's just saying it's gonna be a town meeting.
So why not have it?
Oh,
Yeah, so my point is, what was the urgency on this? That it couldn't have just been submitted to the town to do what would be a completely defensible, irrefutable
Well-
policy of the town voted, and if the town whose land it is decides as a group that they want the political signs to be allowed on the town land, with or without regulations. I mean, as I pointed out to Jason, you can drive over the line, it can be a bit much.
It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West when you cross the border. Signs everywhere.
Sign purpose must be having and so I know that even as regards like business signs, Tingsboro requires those. They allow them on town land, but on kiosks and things like that. So for those reasons, I just think that the whole thing should be considered.
So this is reconsidering the policy.
Well,
Not
the way
because
the
it-
policy was put out, I mean, you're the administrative board, you have the right to decide what you want to state as a policy, go into the town meeting and say, we don't advise this, we think it's very tacky, Wellesley doesn't have it, whatever your reasons for doing this were.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure
Certainly,
it's clear that this wasn't a zoning change. This was a policy.
That's what he's saying.
Yep. So no, he stated zoning a couple times. So I just want to make sure for those listening that this is a policy change.
he's claiming that it should be a zoning change and that we failed to do that appropriately.
Yeah.
He's saying that we should not have done it as a policy change, that what we actually did did a change to zoning bylaw improperly, as I assume is what he's.
Yeah.
Our stance is that it didn't require a zoning bylaw change. It is a policy defining what we do not want to be placed on public properties, on town-owned lands.
That's overseen by the select board.
That is
'Cause you don't-
overseen by the select board.
Right.
So we have folks from the planning board here. I guess I would interpret the zoning bylaw in these signs are specific to residences that are being built. There's only one reference to public land, and that refers to the public way, which is different than land owned by the town under the control of the select board. So we weren't making any change to that zoning bylaw. The public way is part of the roadway,
Right of way.
right-of-way of the roadway. That's not what we're controlling. And this is not controlling what you can leave your signs on your property all year round if you like. That's not what we're looking to oversee. It's not putting signs up on the town common or the town hall property or the few other parcels that the select board specifically has control over.
And I don't think there's anything in the current bylaw. Sorry, I don't think there's anything in the current bylaw that allows signs to go on those properties.
But another thing
There's-
in my
yeah.
research, as rudimentary as it might have been, seems to indicate that in zoning, if something isn't specifically prohibited, then it's kind of like the same thing as tacit approval. Unless some smart lawyer can tie it to some other zoning provision that generally what's not prohibited is allowed. And there's the fact that these other towns, and I only researched, I can't remember what Pepperell's was, maybe it's in Pepperell, there's a couple of pages out of each town, zoning regs in there. But Groton for sure says no political signs, and Kingsborough for sure specifically says no political signs allowed on town land.
Right.
So I would think if they're going to that extent, that it's something that needs to be said in the zoning laws. And so you'd be adding to the zoning laws to make that policy. That's my basic.
Well, our zoning law does refer to public elections. It gives guidelines for how political signs can be put up under the zoning bylaw, but that's not what we're not changing this bylaw.
If the policy
And
was,
was there a legal opinion sought on that? Maybe it fall into the.
The policy was vetted by town council, yes.
if the policy was trying to regulate every property in town, then I would completely understand what you're saying right now. But this is only for town property under the jurisdiction of the select board, which is fully under their authority and control.
And what property is that versus, just as an example, don't we have town forests all along Groton Street?
That's managed by the town forest commission.
And like conservation oversees certain land,
Correct.
the land trusts oversee certain lands.
So do they need to make a policy?
Correct.
They may,
If
if
they
they
want to
choose
do something
to,
else.
they could do that.
So without a policy, that particular stretch or not a stretch, et cetera, to be able to put the signs up?
Yeah, it's outside of this policy that the board created. It's outside of it.
Mr.
So
Cheney,
what land is in,
You would have to look that up on the Dunstable map geo to figure out what land's overseen by conservation, land trust, forestry, highway, et cetera. And it's pretty easy to figure that out.
what?
I have that information.
If you just let me finish that, but you also have to expect that individual committee may remove that sign,
which they would be able to do because they control that property.
bingo, and recycle it, and you may never see it again.
And it should be noted, just to be clear, this is not a ban on political signs. In the policy, the policy does not refer specifically to political signs. This is a policy that prohibits any private sign. And what I would think is private sign is any sign that is not a public
But I would
sign.
ask Jason, why you put in there with election season at hand? You kind of.
Because there are going to be a lot of private signs being put all over the town.
But it is
So-
not directed at any one particular sign.
So for instance, like before the Memorial Day parade each year, we go around to 3 different spaces in town and say a few words and honor the veterans who served the country. To me, personal opinion, it would be a shame to have a vote Kieran Meehan for select board sign on the Dumont Memorial up on Thorndike in French Street. That would be a shame. I didn't put my signs there. So
I
like,
spoke to one of the women that put a couple of signs out here with a triangle in one. I said, I don't think I would expect it to be removed pretty quickly. That's not the place for political signs.
and common sense is a loaded term, so it gets really tough these days.
Mr. Cheney's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, I removed a few signs from the cemetery. They always pop up. What people don't realize, for example, is that the slope along 113 there is actually lots. There are 9 family tombs there. The French family, for example, 2 of the fellows buried there were at Bunker Hill. Both were wounded. I picked up a political sign on a Proctor property in the corner of the slope there. I didn't appreciate it. The Conservation Commission, just this past week, I guess it was this week, voted to basically do the same thing as the Board of Selection. And the reasons are 2. One, everybody owns the Conservation Commission land. Everybody. Not everybody supports a particular candidate. Two, it's a matter of aesthetics. We just soon place conservation property to look like a used car lot, a used car lot. So for aesthetic reasons, and because the trees and the wildlife and so forth would just sort of stay out of it, we adopted some policy. And the town forest committee will shortly do the same thing. You're absolutely right. It's 3,500 feet of frontage there in the town forest on Rocky Street. And we just soon not have a bunch of political signs there. So, you know, more power to folks that put them on the lawn. I do. I put them on. And that's great. End of story.
Erica?
So, I'm kind of with the thought process of I don't think science too much, but whatever. But my kick these days is, what was the motivation? Was the motivation behind the decision? And that you didn't want any political signs?
It's not specifically political signs. There are a lot of signs that, I mean, what difference is it, what motivated it, really?
Because this is where I, although I don't think signs too much, I do agree when I mentioned that to my father, which sometimes you have to have on why you're fighting this. He had a point that made me think that it is giving an advantage to incumbents. Because they're.
I'm sorry, advantage to what?
It's giving an advantage to the incumbents because
Okay.
their name is known, it's already out there. So if you have someone who's, you know, not an incumbent, they're trying to get their name out there. They don't typically know a lot of people in the area. So that's where I find it really should be something that's a decision of the whole.
Well, personal opinion, I don't think the town hall property is the venue in which we need to be promoting the new
Oh, yeah, I'm not talking
incumbents.
about town hall.
Well, but this is the property, one of the properties that.
One of them, yes, but there's
Right.
other properties in town that could be.
What
There are
would be
not
the
that
objection
many,
of
but
the
the common
triangle?
in here.
The triangle with Third and Thorndike Street, especially considering that a private enterprise, Constable Rural Land Trust, has a sign there to advertise the farm. So that shows, I think, if you.
It's not town-owned land.
Some ACI.
I believe that triangle is owned by the land trust, but I'm not sure.
Keith brought it up on the GPS and he pretty well approved, I thought, going in.
Well, he brought up that it was on the map, it was tagged as town property, but when we talked to Alan and the land trust, that wasn't the case.
I think you will have a hard time finding a deed that shows that the town owns that triangle. I think you can find a deed that shows that the McCool Farm owns the triangle. And the zoning map is not always accurate.
That is true.
I can point you anytime to a couple of errors right now on the zoning map.
And what about Cross Street, what about Kemp Street?
Well, we have to look at each one individually. As far as I know, Kent Street is public property.
That one is. Because so I had a sign there and the neighbor said, take it off, so I took it off. Yeah, this is when I was running for election. They're like, hey, get it off there. So I drove out there and took it off.
It was their land.
It's town-owned land, so it wasn't anybody's. It's town-owned, so I said, well, I'm running for election.
Who instructed you to take it off?
The neighbor said, hey, that's town-owned land, your sign shouldn't be there.
Oh, you
I said,
brought
all right, I'm
up
sorry.
that it was town-owned land.
Yeah, I didn't know. I hear you. I think maybe the newest member to town in this room. I don't know this young lady in the purple over here.
She's been around for a while.
Okay, so and I've run for a few elections. To Erica's point, it's more than just the signs that get you elected. So it is something you can do without having to have a sign up.
I never put up signs.
I mean, I also appreciate the small town atmosphere of Dunstable. Get to know your neighbors. I think it's one of the most unique things about our town. So go knock on some doors. That's usually my thought on that.
The what?
Well, that's a whole nother issue that I wanted to bring up, but we'll bring it up at another time. I think the issue being that things like this, what happened, and I mentioned this to Jason last spring, in an email, that what happened to her on social media last spring was, in my opinion, atrocity to the town of Dunstable. I understand that I wasn't born here, and I'm not a townie, but I've been here for 48 years. And I have never experienced, she showed me stuff that people posted because she had a different opinion to her. That isn't the Dunstable I moved to, I know that.
Which is why I don't participate in that social
But
media
there's really no
forum.
other way to get it out there. Like, if you can't do signs, you have to do something. And if you have a different opinion online, I mean, I was attacked, personally attacked, which is.
I don't doubt it, because people use that venue to say things that they would never say to your face.
And she's been here since she was 4, and I have other children who've been here since they were 4 days old, so I guess they qualify as that. And to be saying that if you don't like it, move out,
Which is basically.
that's just totally inappropriate.
And
That is
that's
a Dunstable
belongs to
behavior.
families, which was disturbing.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Which I bring up the zoning generally. It's nice verbiage, but
All right, well, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss
No,
on this?
spoke my piece.
Well, thank you. Sorry we missed you last time around, but we made it tonight, so,
Okay, thank you.
all right. Okay, next up, minutes. We have a set of minutes from September 10th, 2024, so a motion to approve.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from September 10th, 2024, as submitted with corrections discussed.
Second.
Any further discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, we have the approval of exemption of the public drinking bylaw at Lotta Memorial Field for October 19th, 2024, for an Oktoberfest event that I guess being put forward by the Parks and Rec Committee. Excellent. Is there anything you want to come up and speak to this on, or?
No.
No?
Literally, T4 has we've already emailed back and forth about where the truck will be placed and that there will be an area cordoned off just for people who are imbibing.
Okay.
And we're hopeful to have, I think we said 200 to 300 people, so we're gonna wait to see how many officers we needed. But he's already given a heads up that could be 2 or 3.
Yeah, and we've spoken several times, I think we got a pretty good plan in place, we're gonna treat it pretty much like we did with the 350, kind of go with the similar.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting as many people as the 350, so I think we're in good shape.
Okay. Can you just give us a little idea of what this Oktoberfest is going to entail, or? It's a new concept for
It
you
kind
folks.
of sprung from the Food Truck Fridays.
Okay,
We tried to have a beer truck for those, or at least one of them, and we didn't do it in time, it just was not happening. So during one of the last Food Truck Fridays, I was emceeing, and I just threw out there, who would like to have alcohol at least at a food truck? I mean, I got the biggest, the biggest response. So I thought, oh, October's coming up, how about Oktoberfest? So I threw it out there to the rest of the parks and rec members, and everybody, kind of liked the idea, and it kind of grew.
And so it's going to be a food truck with German fare. We have a DJ, beer, some Stein contests that they're preparing. We're kind of working on other little things, but nothing's nailed down yet. It's hard to get volunteers, but it's basically having, people get together that live in Dunstable and get to know your neighbors. Food truck Fridays went fairly well. I didn't hear, I'm not on social media either, so I don't know if there were any negative comments, but people were there, seemed to like it. Next year they'll see if we can do things different or better, but, it seems okay.
What time is this event gonna run?
2 to 6.
2 to 6.
Looks good.
Sounds like fun.
We kind of have two motions here that tie together. Public drinking bylaw. So Madam Chair, I move to authorize the consumption of alcohol at Lauder Field on October 19, 2024, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. for the Recreation Commission's Oktoberfest event.
All
Second.
right, is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the second part of this is,
I just want to note, on his application, the beer guy, put 1 to 8 for the time of the event. I think that's because for setup and cleanup.
Okay.
So I did note that in the motion, but we also just should have consumption during the event.
2 to 6.
So I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify that.
Yeah, no, I see that. Okay, that's responsible. Let me ask this quick. Is this the guy that we had last year?
Yes, that's the 350th.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Same truck, same guy, same drill, and there were no issues, police chief, no?
That was a cool setup.
I think-
It's like the old fire truck.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, yeah.
I move to approve the request from David Capriati, the Beer Guy LLC, for a 1-day liquor license for the sale of wine and/or malt beverages for the Oktoberfest event on Saturday, October 19th, 2024, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Setup starts at 1 p.m. and cleanup is from 6 to 8 p.m. at Lauder Field, subject to the following conditions: delivery of and receipt by the licensing authority of the required fee, delivery of and receipt by the licensing authority of proof that the alcohol will be purchased from an authorized source, delivery of and receipt by the licensing authority of proof of insurance, proof that the applicant can receive proper delivery, provide proper storage and disposal of all alcoholic beverages purchased, all in accordance with the requirements of GL Chapter 138.
Second.
any further discussion?
I think the only issue, Jason, that I would ask for is that the certificate of insurance that he's being asked to provide is that the town of Dunstable will be the certificate holder. No, that's really. I think this guy was gonna know that, because he did that the last time, right?
For the proof of insurance.
Yeah, his insurance
He
certificate.
needs to
needs to-
name, he needs to name the town.
Yeah, he needs to identify the town.
One other thing, oh, we have to vote on that one, sorry.
No, that's fine. Is this-
Yeah, I would vote, and then I just have a clerical question on the previous motion, so.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
On the previous one, we said move to authorize the consumption of alcohol at Lauder Field. Should it be the consumption of retail alcohol?
You could say beer and wine, because it's just a beer and wine liquor license.
I think you're concerned people are gonna bring their own.
The sale.
Yeah,
The
sale.
move to authorize the consumption of for sale alcohol at Lauder Field. So we may want to
purchased.
purchase that. I couldn't think of that
On-site
word.
purchased alcohol.
Yeah, I think we should maybe make a little amendment.
I don't know. So when we did the 350th, right, and we had the beer guy that was there, Eric, did we restrict people from BYOB?
Yeah, so
Yes,
that-
no
yeah.
signs that say no outside.
And we sent out like a last minute postcard because at first it was,
Yeah.
it was a cool event. And I think we thought, and then we kind of realized, oh, it kind of spiraled and people were like, we're going to bring a case of, Bud
Yeah,
Light here and sit
yeah.
here and just
Yeah.
slug beers all day. I'm like, well, we can't have that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's a fair point. So,
So in our marketing, if we put something to that effect.
well,
I
yeah,
think
it's
it's
not
a-
BYOB, it's
Right.
only
Yeah.
what is purchased.
No outside.
It's being marketed that way now, I think, on
Yeah.
Facebook, in the event, yeah.
And I mean, that guy has such a cool selection of stuff. The beer guy truck is like, you can get
Yeah.
a seltzer, you can get a hot, IPA, you can get whatever. Like, but I just want to make sure we just put the proper word there.
Yeah, so let me amend that public drinking bylaw motion. So the move to authorize the consumption of alcohol at Lager Field shall be purchased at Lager Field
Between the hours.
between the hours of 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the Recreation Commission's Oktoberfest event. And then I think I want to just add to that, just so that there's a point of clarity here. This event is not a BYOB.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, further discussion on this. Is we good with that? All those in favor?
I hate to be a buzzkill, but I worry about people driving.
No, good. Good catch. Okay. All right, so the next thing we have on here is just a quick update on this group that Jason and I have been part of, called the Small Towns Collaborative. And what this little PowerPoint is basically a draft website that this group put together. So quickly, the Small Town Collaborative consists of the first Middlesex County district communities of Ashby, Townsend, Lunenburg, Groton, Pepperell, and Dunstable. And in 2023, at the direction of Margaret Scarsdale, Representative Scarsdale, leaders from these towns formed the Small Towns Collaborative, essentially to promote these towns as rural destinations that have great opportunities for recreation, arts and culture, farming, culinary experiences, and business growth, employment, education, and tourism. The group is together trying to sort of spur some economic development among those, the towns, find their place on the map, encourage people to come in and visit, do some shopping, spend some money, do agricultural, tourism, et cetera. So we've been doing this for how long? It's been a while, about a year, and it's taken a little while for the group to sort of really gel together and figure out what our mission is. But we've come up with a mission that the collaborative is used to the collective strengths of the 6 individual communities to create a thriving region where shared energy, enthusiasm, and foresight help overcome limiting growth factors in these rural small town communities. We've been meeting monthly and starting to really pull things together. We have one of our members from Townsend who put together this draft website. It's not gone live yet. We're still trying to work it out. We're still trying to raise the money in order to get it done. And it would be actually a pretty cool site. So once you get in there, it talks what it is, and then you'd be able to click on each one of those, which would then send you down sort of your own town's rabbit hole to offer what you have for events or businesses or other opportunities, hiking places, farms to go to, other community events that may be going on. So, yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, once we get it going. Originally, they were asking for $1,200 from each town in order to start this website. 2 towns of the group got a pass on that due to our financial situations, Dunstable being one. They sort of covered us. They are going to be looking for money going forward for the management of it. So either it's something that the town can do, or we can try to work up some business sponsors to see if they'd be willing, they could get their name put on there. You know, get a couple of different businesses in town to do that. Working on a form that they're putting together that we'd be able to use to present to these business members. They would also like members on this collaborative, someone from our business world in Dunstable and from the agricultural group to also be members on this. We don't have a business association, so it may be difficult to just pull one person in. I had recommended that perhaps maybe someone from our economic development committee may be willing to participate in that. You know, it's sort of been difficult because, once again, Dunstable's a bit of an outlier in the many things that we're involved in. We're small, we don't have a lot of businesses, and we actually have many businesses, but they're not all storefronts. So it's sort of hard to pull that together. It's hard to entice people to come from Boston and hang out in Dunstable for the day, or, you know, maybe swing through while you're, you know, go through, get a book, get a sandwich, whatever, go for a hike. And so I've been struggling a little bit to find out exactly where our place within this group is, but I think as more time goes on and we get a little more cohesive and learn what each town's strengths and weaknesses are, we can kind of make that work. So,
I mean, I think that is, kind of looked at it, I think that is a phenomenal idea.
Yeah.
I like every aspect of it. And I don't mean to, I hate to come across the wrong way, but there certainly are a number of residents in this town that own very successful businesses that could, even though they're not central to Dunstable, they provide services to Dunstable. We have a heating oil company that the CEO of the company lives in town, and certainly a bunch of others that I could think of that would be, they can get a little ad on that. And I think that whole thing is just fantastic.
Can you
And
go
it would
back
be-
one slide, too?
It's Jason.
So it'll also be linked in with the North Central Chamber of
Oh,
Commerce.
2 more forward.
We're-
I wanted to see the farm stand that you, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in Bloomington.
Yeah,
What's with that?
it's a little farm stand, and it's a way for your local agricultural folks or a beekeeper to put honey out, or flowers, or, you know, I think it's a way that you connect what people are growing in the community and make it accessible. It's a really nice sort of depiction of what right to farm communities, I think, really thrive with, so.
But that farm stand doesn't exist right now.
Well, that's in Bloomington.
Yeah, it's in Lunenburg.
That's in Lunenburg.
What I meant to say doesn't exist here.
No, it doesn't. But there would be some little loopholes and things to jump through in order to just have a farm stand. There are agricultural aspects that you have to adhere to. You can't just throw a farm stand up that doesn't have products, 25% of the products coming from the property.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be a commercial store.
Yeah.
So, and I know that's something that I think our other committees are looking to sort of search out and do. You're looking at more money.
Yeah, I haven't heard that rule before. Agriculture.
It's there.
Yeah, farmers market, we have the land trust and farmers markets, right? Didn't they just?
Yeah, Wednesdays, 3 to 6.
There were some products that came from all over the place.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the whole thing is just phenomenal. especially-
No, it's a cool idea. I mean, you know, certainly some of the, like Groton and Lunenburg have a lot of stuff, a lot of businesses. But this will, as I was saying, that this will be linked and tracked to the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce. So anyone that goes to that website would be able to link to the small towns
Yeah.
and then search out each town individually.
It's really, because I think we're pretty, like, Ashby to me is a small kind of farmy town. And I don't know a
Yeah.
lot about Ashby, but I've driven through it a few times and I kind of think
It's
we're kind of close. It's cool. It's got a quaint little like sandwich shop, not
Yeah,
a lot to it, but sort of like us. It's
It's a
just
beautiful
kind of a pass-through Vista type of community.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can, do you think it's someone from one of our like master plan implementation committee, or do you think maybe we, ask someone from economic development?
I'm thinking more of the economic development. I know they were working on putting a business database together of all the, I don't know how far they've gotten with that.
I think they're making progress.
I think they are too.
I would
I
like
think they're
to-
close to issuing a survey too. that I'm working
Okay.
on. So they're working on a number of different things.
So that would probably be a good tie-in.
Because you're right, there's a lot of local businesses that may be able to pool together some resources.
Yeah.
You may get a realtor, you may get a farm stand, farm owner, you may get an HVAC person, and say, all right, let's sort of get Dunstable's name out there in a way and sort of go
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to find someone to lead the charge, I think, is just understanding the commitment. Is it once a month? Is it once every other month? Because the website and the concept's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's a really nice way to do things. So it's great work.
All right, well, so I wanted to just briefly reintroduce you to this again and show you what they've been working on and
Yeah.
starting to make some traction because we did elect officers, so it's becoming a lot, we're not just a bag of squirrels anymore.
Just a bunch of ducks running around.
Yeah. But you start something completely blank, it's just hard to figure out what your mission is.
And Leah's been doing a lot more work on this than I have, to be fair.
Well, and to be fair, other people have been doing a lot more than I have too, so, but. Joan?
I had not heard that this was going on. I think it's a great idea, you can have like for our particular business, we're, seasonal.
Yeah.
But, I think there's so much more going on in this town now than there used to be.
Yeah.
And, I think there's quite a laundry list of things that would attract people, to come to this town, to, the trails, that have lunch, the store, and the spring, and, there's a couple different, flower shops and, so yeah, I think it's certainly sounds like a worthwhile project. And kudos to our good friend Margaret Scarsdale. I don't think it's spending her money properly, but I think this is a great idea.
Well, she's brought a lot of money into this town, you should give her credit for that.
She's brought some money into this town. She could have, with the money they're spending on in other places, she could have been bringing a lot more in.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you gotta remember, she had a late start. She had a very late start because her election was challenged in courts.
oh, right.
So she had a very late start. I mean, she's essentially got half of her term.
Yeah.
I think she's trying, but, as I said, I think she's only able to do so much because, anyway.
Hey, we're not going down a political conversation here, we're focusing on this group, which has a lot of potential that could do some good for us and certainly some good for the other towns involved. And, yes, it was Margaret's brainchild that she started right off with when she was finally sworn in. So,
And I have to say, our number one financial issue is Chapter 70, and she has been one of the people driving the bus on trying to get people's attention on how to fix it.
Yeah.
Which is, if we're able to fix it, and she's been really strongly advocated for change in that way.
Yeah, she's still is. Anyway, so that's it, nice and short, brief.
Yeah, great work. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, Spectrum Charter Franchise Agreement, which we can't vote to approve. They have to have a public hearing first, but.
So that you have a draft of the agreement.
Yeah.
It's substantially the same as our prior agreement, which expired
A little while ago.
2021.
Yeah.
So we'll post the public hearing for next meeting. And
Yeah.
if you have any comments or questions about the draft as it is between now and then, let me know.
Okay, good. Early voting hours for the state presidential election.
So, anything you want to say?
I was just a matter of process. Yeah, it is. I was just gonna say, we've been having, the clerk included a letter in the packet, which kind of outlines some of the voter turnout during in-person voting hours, which has not been allowed. So she is proposing to reduce the hours from 9 to 5 to 9 to 1 during the week. And then the first Saturday, 8 to 12, that's the 19th. And then the second Saturday is actually 9 to 5, because that's the last day to register to vote. So we're going to have to 9 to 5. So the need for approval is, I believe, due to the reduction in person hours.
Okay.
And it's purely based on what we've seen the last 3 elections in voter turnout. It's just not being utilized.
Yeah.
I think more people are using vote by mail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I mean, we're doing the best we can. We're accessible. Vote by mail is an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not
Yeah,
overthink
I
it.
think that's fair.
I move to approve the early voting schedule for the presidential election proposed by the town clerk as follows. Saturday, October 19th, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Saturday, October 26th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
8 a.m.
No, we changed it.
You did?
Yep.
Monday, October 21st through Thursday, October 24th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday, October 28th through Thursday, October 31st, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Get out and vote.
Okay, and last but not least, the professional service agreements for the community compact grant.
We received a total of $50,000 through the community compact grant, which is great. We're using the grant for 2 purposes, the 2 separate grants, total 50. $20,000 to do a classification and compensation review employees. This also includes updates to our job descriptions. And then the second project is a $30,000 contract for review of the existing shared treasure collector agreement with the town of Pepperell. The classification and compensation review, that hasn't been done for 3-4 years, even longer than that maybe. So it's time to give that a fresh look, and job descriptions are definitely in desperate need of updating. And the agreement for the shared treasure collector agreement review, that's to make sure that this is a sustainable model and to really kind of dig into what it's going to take to build a successful model for the long term. So the Collins Center is excited about both projects. In particular, I think the regional treasure collector, because I think everyone recognizes that for a lot of communities, this is the future.
This is the model.
This is the model.
Yeah.
And it's a unique model. And so they're going to be able to roll up their sleeves and help us kind of make sure that this is sustainable over the long term. So
Yeah.
Is $30K a lot for that?
30.
It's $30,000, right? Am I reading that?
Yeah, it's 30. On it, my initial estimate. My initial application was 25
Okay.
for each,
Yeah,
and the proposals as they came in were slightly different.
okay,
So based on, they kind of shifted a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was the same overall cost based on my requests.
and that's the intent of that compact grant, correct? Is to do this type of review and it can't be used for anything, I mean, just trying to.
That's correct.
for our
So
folks
there
listening.
are several categories of community compact grants. You might remember last year we got a community compact IT grant to
Yeah.
update our servers.
Mhm.
This is community compact best practices program.
Okay,
So there's a variety of categories that you can apply for, economic development, zoning, regionalization,
like staff and employee training administratively, like, right?
there's green environmental
Yep.
initiatives, things like that.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them, aging in place. So this was under, I think, just regionalization services. I
Yeah.
think There were a few options. But yes, there are best practices specifically that are identified under each heading, and you can then go and pick best practices and apply for projects that fit within those categories.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is certainly where I think a lot of towns like ours are going. And I think it's not lost on Pepperell and Dunstable that there's some financial constraints in each town, so we ought to continue to, blur lines, if you will, to bring groups that we can together that can be regionalized. And what a great way to pool resources, so.
For both towns.
Yeah, and I think I've heard positive things about what Andrew's doing individually, so I think it's working for us, same with Bryn and, water department, et cetera. So it's a testament to Jason as well as Sue and, Pepperell, being amicable to these types of things, so.
We've been lucky to benefit from Bonnie being here too, the former treasure collector who's been assistant part-time. And she's really helped with the transition and continues to really help with the transition.
Yeah.
And we just want to make sure as part of this work that all of that knowledge about the job and experience that Bonnie has is transferred properly from her to the current treasure collector. We're building a staffing model that makes sense. We're building a staffing schedule that makes sense. We're defining the roles and responsibilities of each position so that it makes sense in the overall picture of Dunstable and Pepperell working together on it. So that's the dream from this project, hopefully.
And I bet it's also like documenting standard operating protocols, because Bonnie is legendary in her role, but there's a lot of things she probably knows that maybe aren't documented, which is something tough for when legacy employees move on and retire and enjoy themselves. Like, sometimes they carry all that knowledge with them. It's the communal knowledge that you can't actually understand unless you draw it out and you write it up in a PowerPoint. So I think that's a right practice for us to keep doing that. So if we all win Powerball, the town will continue to operate.
We all win Powerball, we all have to give money
Back to the town. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of bees, a lot of dogs in town. So this is just a motion to approve this, right?
Yes.
Move to approve the professional services agreement with UMass Boston in the amount of $10,000 for a compensation and classification review, and a professional services agreement with UMass Boston in the amount of $30,000 for a review of the existing shared treasurer-collector regional agreement between the towns of Pepperell and between the town of Pepperell and authorized the chair to sign the agreement on behalf of the board.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anything else?
I want to just make one little side comment, right? We like to always in some way talk about things when they don't go so good, right? I want to make a comment, I talk about, Matt, all the people that are here tonight, so they can hear me out. This transfer of our emergency communications to Patriot has gone, I don't know if it's gone any better. I just don't. Going beyond that, I mean, and I didn't know David all that well, with the technical aspects of how that dispatch functions, his abilities and his ability to attract quality people who are dedicated and devoted to functioning as emergency dispatchers, right, is beyond my wildest expectation. Typically, EDs are, they come and they go, and it's like a sandwich shop person. You train them, they come in there, and then 6 months later they leave. He's got none of that. And to the extent that everybody really understands that, and the reallocation of all of the fire apparatuses, dispatch numbers, constables, 40E6 and so on, that's all typically how a really matured, well-run organization runs. And the guy needs to get out of applause because he came out of the closet and put this whole thing together, and he's just really done a phenomenal job at that regional dispatch function. And I see it, I hear it, I talk to others, and I want to publicly thank David and I think it's Rebecca Bourne, his right-hand person, for the phenomenal job that they've done with that, and they have not missed a beat. And it's even beyond seamless. I don't know. It was probably the best put together transition that I've seen in anything in years. He's just done a great job, and I want to extend my thanks and our thanks on behalf of the school to Patriot and certainly the Rebecca.
It made him move up the date too.
I'm very aware.
Yeah, he's terrific. He actually was, our Citizens Academy that's going on, he presented at the first session with the fire chief. And he got rave reviews too. So yeah, he's top notch. Yep.
Just even beyond that.
Oh, that's good to hear.
I'm glad we're in it, and, thank you, David, for all that you've done to make that thing work as well as it is.
The
all
only,
I have.
the only thing I will add to that is I joined advisory for their most recent meeting. That group's, working hard on the budget topic, so, it's that time of year. So for those listening at home, I encourage folks to go to an advisory board meeting and gear up for perhaps a similar looking spring that we just went through. So
I hope one.
more awareness, the better. So.
Yeah.
Department budget spreadsheets will likely be out by the end of the week. So if not, the end of the week.
Department.
For FY26. Alright, yeah.
Otherwise, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.